And we are live for episode 154 of Truth Will Set You Free. Hit the like button, share it, do all the things that we beg of you to do. And we were dead at 6 o'clock, which is impressive. We got a few things to talk about. Obviously, more talk about Israel, Hamas, talk about how the current anti-Israel movement is shaping up, all of the weird pro-Palestinian stuff all over the world. We've got that, and then we'll still get into whether or not we belong, our involvement is. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the need for that. We'll talk about whatever, where we should stand, where we believe we should stand on Israel. There's a lot of different approaches, so I don't want to say where you should, but let's just go around kind of with the facts. Also, Biden has a border wall that he is now building. It's in the last week. I don't know if you've heard it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the excuses on why I will never build one more inch, corn pop. We'll talk about that. And RFK Jr., I'm a fan of him, has now left the campaign for Democratic president.
Did you just sniff your nose like you're doing cocaine?
I did. I was out with the horse. I've got hair all over me. I've got the sniffles. Let's see. And now he's shifting us to independent. That's it. Casey, what's going on in your life? And then we'll get the show started.
Dude, it's a crazy world. Crazy freaking world. I just wish our government would get this shit together and take care of Americans before other countries.
I mean, I feel like that's simple enough. I feel it's simple. Change on. We're both wearing Awake Not Woke hats. If you like our gear, go right there to show it on the bottom. Why is it not coming up? I'm hitting the button. There it is.
I don't know if you had a blip or if I had a blip just a second ago.
It's weird. I don't know. If you like to check out our merchandise, go to awakenotwokestore.com and use Awake for 15% off. Let's get this out of the way. I know people have been asking for a while, those that have had the juice, the jab, the stickity stick, or long COVID even. The Dr. Artist Show now has new stuff. It's a tincture. It's a drop. It's called what is it? Spike protein something. You'll see it on the website. It's to maybe flush out the proteins that spike. If I could phrase it that way to get away from the censorship, go to thedrartistshow.com, use BFD at checkout for 10% off. Without further ado, we'll have some other ads as we go, but we want to get the party started. Keep liking this video, sharing this video, commenting where you're from. Let's get the algorithm bumping. And with that said, let's kick the tires and light the fires. All right, that's right. Episode 154. We're going to talk about a couple different things, including what I didn't mention before. We have got a minor, short Kash Lee Kelly update, so stick around for that. Some of you may already know, as you've probably seen the post on Truth Will Set You Free. We're going to talk about whether or not we belong in helping Israel, what our involvement in the United States should be, the country that we need to be America first on. Where should we lie in this? Why is there all of this pro-Palestinian movement going on? RFK Jr. is now running as a Democrat, or as a independent from Democrat. And who does that help? I want to know who that helps. We're going to talk about that. And then, of course, the Biden border wall. Yes, that's the thing. Biden now has a border wall. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to it pretty quick. What were we just laughing about? We were laughing about something. I don't remember what it was. I was so busy. Somebody made a comment and it made me think of it. Where was it? Bum. I don't know what it is. Is the horse named Hunter? I see. That's a good one. That's the comment of the day so far. Well done. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Kash some way midway through the episode. Let's go ahead and just get right into it. Casey, let's continue with the Israel, because I think Israel is going to lead into the discussion of border walls. I think they go one and the same, I believe. So Casey, you've been posting a lot about how we need to stay the hell out of Israel. We need to stop thinking that we need to get involved. So explain your thought process on that.
So my thought process, a lot of people really are like, well, they're an ally. We have to help. 100% we have to help. We will eventually have to help if it escalates. We have seen every couple years this conflict spurs up randomly. We kind of talked about it a little bit last night, but at weird times. Overall, if it escalates to a bigger scenario, that is when we can consider and analyze and get involved. Right now, Israel can handle themselves. Israel can take care of the situation. Israel can wipe out Hamas instantly if they wanted. Now, my question is, do they want to when Israel created Hamas? That's the question. And I really think that this whole thing is all spurred up to be utilized in time of at very convenient times to create not the trigger term of a distraction, but to move people's focus. And it is exposing a lot of people that are always touting America first, America first. And then it's like, oh, Israel, never mind. We're backing all the Israel. We'll back Israel and we'll give them all the money. Like,
who is really saying to give Israel money though right now? That's the thing.
Every Republican in Congress.
Really? I don't
know very many that's saying stay out of it. Like Nikki Haley's calling for it. You have
Nikki Haley is a warmonger. So you got to take Nikki Haley out of it because she's going to, again, I think Vivek was right. She's going to have a job with Lockheed immediately after this. Like she's looking as a war contractor. That's period. But in terms of the common sense Republicans that aren't on the ultra establishment where they all make money from their governmental war contracts, I don't see this. I see support Israel. I'm on that train. I say we support them. If they need an extra $100 million, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. The thing is this, Casey, Israel is, to me, even though I still think it's a little odd how somehow this very rudimentary attack happened, I am very pro-Israel in this sense. I think it's interesting that Israel is not asking for anything except for permission to go fuck shit up. Like that's all they're asking for. They're saying, hey, just so you know, we're going to attack. We're going to go after these people. We're going to go take care of Hamas. Everybody cool with that? And then they went, and then they're going out and they're doing things. They're not asking. They're not. I think that some of the right wingers that, again, I love Ian. I love Ian Wen. I love Ian Smith, but they're very kind of like, careful what you, Israel bad right now. Like, I'm like, no, I don't think I see that right now. If Israel was saying we need billions of dollars from the United States of America, okay. I think that then there's a reason to start being more suspicious. Israel right now just wants permission to get shit done and seek revenge for the decapitation of children, for the murder of innocent concert goers, for the bombing in the middle of the night, which I think is interesting. I don't know if people paid attention to this, but this was the beginning of the Sabbath. So many people in America, just so happens that that there was Americans there. There's people in America that had their phones off because, like Benji Gerson works with Dallas Jewish Conservatives. He does not answer phones on the Sabbath. So that this attack was staged and planned at the exact right time so that there is not much contact. People had their phones off. It's sketchy to me that we are all of a sudden anti-Israel. And I think that you're right. We shouldn't be involving ourselves financially. But I don't see that a lot of people are calling for that because Israel isn't asking for it.
No, but we already give them a crap load of money every year, whether they're in conflict or not.
3 billion? What is it? 3 billion?
It's billions.
More than any of that region. I know that. I understand that. But the amount that we give to the people that are not their allies, actually, and I saw Crowder do this with his sources are always cited. That if we were to stop giving money to the countries that would oppose Israel and stop giving money to Israel, it would actually be a net positive for Israel. I think that's a very important thing to understand.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking up, I have a document from Congressional Research Service, and it is saying 520 million was just sent to Israel earlier this year. It looks like it gives a whole breakdown of the money, but we give a crap ton of money to Israel, which means we just need to back off and let things take their course. Now, if things escalate to a severe scenario, then we can get involved. It is an ally of ours. So yes, we would have to in that scenario. That is part of the agreement of being an ally.
Are you saying to back off and stop giving the money that we already allocate for Israel?
Just hold off on getting involved in any way. We just need to be watching.
Well, no, there's an important distinction. You just politicized the question and you spun out of it. If we're slated to be giving money to Israel XYZ each month, whether it's 100 million, and it's said that is what we do, that is our agreement with them, do you think we should stop giving that money?
No. Well, let me rephrase. Yes, I would love to see that, but in this time, it's not the time to stop giving money. In that scenario that we've already committed, that they're reliant on it, fine. But I ultimately, all foreign aid for any country outside of our border, gone. We don't need to be funding your issues. And that is the whole thing. But in this scenario, I don't think it's a time that we would do that to our ally or a friend of our country, Israel. However, giving them more money, Israel's a very strong country on their own.
Right.
They are capable of handling the situation without us involved in any way.
I agree. So that's where Brian's comment right here. I feel that it is orchestrated. Rumor had they an intel from Egypt. Rumor. Again, this is so far, as I said yesterday, so far above our pay grade. We really have no idea. Is it odd to me that this attack happened? Now, I've always liked Benjamin Netanyahu. Again, it doesn't mean that we put anything past anybody. But at the end of the day, whether whoever let it say Israel, and again, I'm coming from a very pro-Israel stance on this one, say that it was allowed to seep through the cracks and it was somebody in his administration, just the same way as Bill Barr is a piece of crap that was in Trump's administration. Like, there are bad actors in every administration that have a dollar amount that buys them out. I'm not doubting that. At the end of the day, when you look at the Palestinian people and Hamas, like you said, Israel started Hamas. I think that was so long ago. We cannot include that in this conversation. I think there is no way to look at this where Israel is a fan of Hamas. Like, even if they let them sleep through the cracks right now, they're having an excuse to pretty much annihilate all of Hamas off the face of the earth. Am I right?
No, yeah. Israel can easily just wipe them all out. And that's what I think they should do. One of the things that should always be done in war, if you are going to take action, take swift, strong action. Because if you draw it out, you draw more blood. And no, that is not necessary. If you send a strong strike and you take care of the situation in one quick sweep, that is how you would do it. And we have not seen that done in decades in war. Not at all. We love across this world to be able to draw out a war for money. That is the reason why these wars are starting, is for money. It used to be that we start wars for land. We want to take land. We want your land. But no, this is all about money.
And I agree with you. I think it's interesting, though, that Gaza was something that was asked for by the Palestinians and given by, we've had issues for the last forever. But even in the last couple of years, there's been some issues where we thought there was going to be war in Israel. We thought there was going to be war in Palestine. That was at the beginning of the Biden presidency, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was after Trump. Trump, there was an escalation that happened out there. This is just a continuous battle. And as I've said, as somebody that is half Jewish and as somebody that is pro-Israel, Israel is not innocent in this. They're not. But in comparison, people want to ask me the question, why am I so pro-Israel in the battle? And I do believe it is the lesser of two evils. And I did a little bit more research after yesterday because I was saying, like, how many people, on that Palestine, why am I anti-Palestine? Because of course there's good people, but I said as a percentage, the bulk of them want the end of the Western world. And I misphrased that as the bulk. I said more than just the outliers, more than the exceptions. It turns out there is a Pew Research poll that shows that 8% of Muslims in the world. 8% of Muslims. 8. That's not nothing. And since there's 1 point something billion, the way the math comes out is you're looking at almost 200 million. That's almost every adult in the United States of America. That many people believe that civilian violence is okay. Violence upon civilians. That is why, and as Israelis and the Jewish religion, these terrible Zion, terrible whatever, they have always, as a scripture and as a people, believed in defense. And when it comes to defense, they can be very dirty and very violent, but they are coming from a place of defense. If you look at everything that is in the Quran, and if you look at not everything, the second half of the Quran, and if you look at those statistics, and by the way, 3% believe that it should be done regular and want everything wiped off besides Muslims. 3% of 1 point something billion comes out to 50 million people. 50 million Muslims want the end of civilization to anybody aside from Muslims. And again, this isn't me saying we should have Muslim hate, because there's a lot of great Muslims in this country, but this is the reason why you have to have a stronghold on these people. These people are bred to hate everything non-Muslim. This is why the war started. This is why and I don't mean this war, I mean the wars in general. This is a big issue, is the fact that we're ignoring how dangerous 10% of a population can be when they are that large. They want to eradicate Judaism and Christianity off the face of the universe, and their master lead prophet Muhammad felt the same way. This is why I'm pro-Israel. This is why I question the people that I'm a fan of, the people like Ian Smith, when they're just so like the opposite way on this. There is more than meets the eye. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, why we have to still stand behind Israel is because of these reasons right here.
Can you stand behind Israel without funding a war?
Absolutely. Because they're not asking for it. Now let's beg the question. We've got 14 dead Americans and many missing right now. What do we do about them? Because, I mean, we had 13 soldiers die in Afghanistan in one day. We had that situation. We talked about how horrific that is. We have currently American lives lost and missing in Israel in a war zone. I do believe we have to send in something in order to get our people back, or work with intelligence.
What do you mean by send in something?
We have tactical teams in our military that are designed for this exact purpose. Now, we don't know the exact scale of how many missing yet. They may, I'm sure they do at this point, but I think we can't leave this up to the Israelis. I do think when we have a mass amount of American civilians, this doesn't mean send 1,000 ground troops or 5,000 ground troops. This means we need to use intel. We need to use Israeli intel. We need to use what we have in the area and send in special operations teams. That's my personal belief, because if I was a parent or a wife, husband, I wouldn't be a wife. That's weird. But if I was somebody that was trying to get my friend home or know what happened over there, trying to get their bodies home, I would want our government to do something.
I don't disagree with you. My problem that I have is in Israel. Yes, if American blood has been shed, there can be action by the U.S., but we also have to recognize risk versus reward. And retaliation sometimes is not worth it. If we want to get involved, Americans should get involved just like I said, come in with a full, strong sweep and wipe it out overnight. We can easily do it.
I don't think we should be the ones wiping things out. I think we should.
No, you're talking about sending people in.
What's that?
You're talking about sending people in.
Not to fight a war, but as like exactly like this, rescue and return.
But if they're dead, what are you rescuing?
Yeah.
Rescuing what if they're already dead?
There's still many missing. And I think that as Christians, I think that part of our belief system is to return the bodies. And as we know,
that can happen. I'm just saying, right now, rushing in to do that only puts more Americans at risk.
Rushing into, well, to get the bodies, no, that's what I'm saying. So the best word that Stevie's using is extraction. So in an actual extraction of those that may still be alive, maybe being held hostage, the longer that goes, the further down the depths and the caves and the whatever dwellings they may be in, the more that they get raped, the more that they get violated, the more they get beaten, the less chance they can return home to not have PTSD the rest of their life, which they're probably already going to have. So I do believe we have to go in guns blazing into the areas that we have intel on. That is why we have supposedly used to have the strongest military in the world. You know, right now, probably not the time to give a shit about whether or not somebody is a transgender soldier or not, but
that doesn't matter. That's
doesn't
irrelevant.
matter. Send in the best we've got to make sure we can get out and in small numbers, because again, I don't want to be the people I don't want to be the ones bombing Gaza. That's not the point. But if we have to go in and we use extraction teams, special forces, special ops to get in there and get our people back, we have to do
that. I don't disagree with you, but we run into a predicament of sending in more Americans and risking them when we already have an ally there, and I believe we have an embassy there, which means we have people already there in Israel that can help. Sending more is just a big risk.
That's what they're trained for, Casey. So Lori's saying, I would assume that they're already dead. That there is special operations teams that are literally there for the purpose. They are trained for the purpose. If American civilians are ever trapped in another country, or even military, if there is military left behind, we don't want to have POWs anymore or anything like that. If we have got people that could potentially be alive, this whole concept, I would assume that they're already dead, is not true. They love to torture. They love to hold hostage. Yes, and they'll instantly decapitate babies, but they'll still do other stuff. Promise you that there is a chance, even if there is 1 out of 19 that are still alive, and you are the relative of that one, as an American citizen, don't you want them to go in when that is literally what their branch is, what they are trained to do?
Oh, I get it. But why don't we have that same energy about the soldier that is locked up in Russia right now?
Agreed. I don't disagree with you. Now, that's the thing. We're not in disagreement. I think our goals should be focused not around bringing basketball players home that did hashish and oil. I think our passions should be to get home those that are innocent American civilians, journalists, and soldiers. And I think that should be number one. And again, I joked about Brittany Griner, but he definitely should have been brought home as well, to fight for that. And I said he on purpose.
Yes. I see. And this is where we struggle. And I think we struggle because we expect our leadership to be able to make solid decisions, and we don't trust them to make solid decisions. And so we end up in these predicaments of what is the best way. And so you have 380 million people in America, I think is what it is, all having difference of opinion around this topic of, do we get involved or do we not? Because our leadership fucking sucks. And so we feel that it is up to us to make those determinations. And I don't like it. I really don't like it. I don't think we should even have Americans in Israel at all when we know these conflicts just turn on a dime.
Well,
we had Hillary Clinton leave Benghazi.
It's good to have some of them there in this instance, because when they turn on a dime, we've got the ability to get the innocent civilians out. That we have recon. I actually do believe in having boots on the ground in almost every nation in the world. That kind of that ability. I believe in small numbers, and I believe in different ways of keeping America safe across the world. I'm not saying we should have troops.
Well, what do you mean? So you're saying small numbers of people, but not troops?
I'm sorry. When I say troops, I mean thousands of troops, boots, like full amounts of army. I don't believe that. I do believe there should always be a contingent in these countries, like the American embassies, as you go around, where there is always a connection that is making friends with the local soldiers, that is making friends with the local military, that has recon, that has the ability at the drop of a dime, that all of a sudden, if Poland decides to team up with Ukraine and go against the UN, or that we have some kind of intelligence in those places. It does not need to be thousands of soldiers. It needs to be a small number, a small contingent in each country, personal belief system. I know that there are people that will disagree with that.
I disagree with that, but I also understand my expectation is not going to happen, to have every soldier home unless we're in war. That is the only time that we need to have soldiers in another country, is if we are going to war and we are going to police the world, just like Doug said. And I do not believe we should have any soldiers out anywhere.
We're not the world police. And so we can actually agree and disagree, because I believe as though Doug's sentiment is to disagree with me, but I actually agree we are not the world police. But we forget that there are Americans living everywhere. There are expatriates. There are people that live all over the world, and some of these militaries that do have nefarious concepts of what they would want to do to the Western world have pockets all over the world. So we do not, as I said, we don't need to be policing these areas. We don't need to be doing what we did in Afghanistan for 20 years or 15 years. We don't need to be doing that, but we need to make sure that we have some kind of intelligence in every country in the world for the most part.
Then if we are going to have some kind of intelligence in every country around the world, that means you need to have somebody trusted, somebody that can have security clearance, that can have all of these conversations with high up individuals, which means they are troops.
When I said troops, as I said, I mean hundreds or thousands. Yes, we do need troops. We need a troops. And as Lori said, do we think that we don't? We do. And I'm saying what we have, the situation we already have in place, to me, is okay. I think some places, if anything, we should be decreasing, not increasing. But I do think it's necessary. Casey and I are just having a disagreement. I do think it's necessary, even in peacetime, because people are imperfect. Humanity is imperfect. Humanity is inherently evil, unfortunately. And I think that there is all these issues that we need to have a stronghold in different places in the world. I do think we could dial back our troops in policing the world. I agree with that.
Yeah. And see, and this is where you and I will agree, is America has a history of going and blowing up a country, and then we're leaving 50,000 troops here. Like that. No, we don't need to be doing that. We don't need to go in, wipe out a country, and then hand it over to the Taliban or any of these other extremist groups because we backed out, or we're like, okay, our work's done, but we're still going to leave 50,000 troops here.
Right.
Just because it's peacetime,
I agree.
We're in war, we're still losing American soldiers.
I agree. And Lori, I saw your comment. Where did you say you're a military? You're a special ops.
Special.
And I'm interested, when you talk to the rest of your family, do they not think that we need to extract those Americans? If they're special ops, I would assume that this is the chance. So it's like, we don't know what we're fighting for anymore in this country. If I was a soldier, I would be like, why am I still doing this? I don't know my purpose. Am I fighting for oil? Am I fighting for to line the pockets of our politicians? But if the opportunity came up where I would get to potentially save Americans from being tortured or being kidnapped, enslaved, that would be the one time I knew that I was doing the right thing. So I think this is the chance that soldiers would want to be able to take special ops, special forces, whatever it might be. I'm pretty sure that this is the one time that it's very, very just, and probably they would want to go over there and help. Kind of like the movie The Covenant. Did you see The Covenant, Casey?
Yes.
So the same type thing. When they found out who they were trying to rescue, they were like, well, I wish you would have told me from the get-go. I would have been the one to take this job. And I know that it's a Hollywoodized movie, but that's the truth. That is how they think. When it's something that they believe in, they want to go do it.
No, and who are we to tell someone that they can't go and do that? We are not.
Right.
The thing is I'm okay with that, But our government doesn't operate that way. Our government sends American soldiers to go fight their war to funnel money through their friends. And I am not for that. That is what our government has done for the last century.
I agree.
We can't be justifying and explain and saying, okay, what you're doing is semi-okay. It's absolutely no. What you're doing is wrong, and we should not be putting American soldiers at risk. Now, if we had a trustful government, then yes, I would agree with you. We could go to that stance, and then we could start going to doing those things. But because we cannot trust our current leadership, and we haven't been able to trust our leadership for 100 years, I do not sign off on that at all.
I think we're in agreement. And Brian is that's eyes, ears, extraction teams. I'm good with that. And giving our blessing. So my confusion, Lori, and I feel like you're the furthest extreme on the other side, very confused about and I know, Lori, you followed us forever. I'm not mad at you. I'm not whatever. I'm just questioning. So I see that you have the picture, your profile picture of praying for Israel. And you're kind of disagreeing with the fact that we should be doing something in terms of, I'm just saying, I don't think we should be fighting with them, but I think we should be make sure our people are safe. And you're saying that your belief and maybe your belief, but your military friends say, make it a parking lot. I'm confused by that statement, because as military, you're set to protect the American civilians. And if there are still American civilians that we don't know are dead, I think that's a pretty effed up way of looking at it. I don't know.
I get it. But again, I think all of this conflict and this division over this topic is driven because we feel that we have to make decisions because we can't even trust our government to do the right thing.
I agree. And by the way, Gaza is being obliterated right now. It's never safe, but I'm going to tell you, you can have intelligence you work with Israel. Israel is is our ally. So if we know where we can and cannot go, we can work with the Israeli government to make sure that we are as safe as possible. Does that mean they're safe? No, but as safe as possible.
Yeah, we'll see. My biggest thing, no more American blood needs to be lost. Our government has already put enough people at risk, and I don't trust them to do the right thing. And if you do, you clearly don't understand Benghazi or any of the other scenarios. Our government has put our soldiers in horrible situations when we thought it was all okay, but I'm pretty sure it was always negligence by our leadership.
So, I think at the end of the day, we're pretty much in agreement. Now, before we get off this topic, why is it that there is now, I've seen massive pro-Palestinian marches in Australia, in London, New York City. They're literally celebrating, and they're celebrating terrorism. That is what happened when you kill that many innocent people. There is no way to say that's not terrorism. They have found, and again, this is a report from Israel, that they have found 40 or 50 children in homes because they were trapped, that the parents were not there or whatever it might. The parents were kidnapped, they believe, and the children were decapitated. Like, this is some sick shit, very, very sick shit that has happened there. So at what point does it make it okay that there is a celebration of this? Yes, we have two Muslims in Congress that are essentially saying, well, both sides to blame on this. See what happens. Pretty effed up, if you ask me. But seeing regular civilians all over the world celebrating this. And by the way, BLM, let me show you the post. Did you see the BLM post, Casey?
Yeah, yeah. I can pull it up real quick.
BLM had a post that I swear I screenshotted, but I guess I did not.
Yeah, I saw it earlier.
Send it to me.
I really think it's stupid. I know someone that shared it on Twitter. I'll pull it up.
Where the heck? I thought I screenshotted it to share it, but apparently not.
BLM Chicago shared this, which is absolutely absurd. Like, this is not okay.
I stand with Palestine.
No. And that's BLM Chicago.
That is a picture of a paratrooper with a Palestinian flag saying, I stand with Palestine. If you don't know what the paratrooper is, or the paraglider, these were the units that came flying in to the festival where 200 and something people were killed. Many were kidnapped from that festival. People left running, screaming all over the place. It was a techno festival, EDM, whatever you want to call it. This is to me as close to hate. This is the celebration of terror. I guess it fits though, Casey, because BLM has become a terrorist organization. I've said it before. So actually this tracks perfectly. This allows us to know who they are. I mean, this is sick. This is sick.
No, it is. I was going to share this earlier and vent my frustration. But all it's going to do is add to the traffic to this Twitter page, which doesn't need to be done. And it doesn't need to be bringing any more attention to this corrupt organization that has funneled a crap ton of money through them for the last few years. So I decided I was not going to share this. This organization is doing this literally for attention, and because Twitter will pay you for your engagement, that is why this is happening.
I'm gonna look up. So yeah, it's 9.3 million people as of 2021. If Stevie put this, so 9.3 million. We have 300 and approximately 40 million people in the United States. So that's a multiplier of 34, 35. So if we're going to do 35, where's my calculator? To let people know how many people are dead so far? 700? What's the current dead?
Let me get a real number.
So I'll say it's 700 until you get it corrected. That would be like 24,000, just rudimentary with 700 dead, which I believe it's more than that. That would be like 24,500 Americans per capita. That would be how that equates. That's how many percent of their population. That's, if it was 24,000 Americans, which is bigger than 9/11, obviously. So now somebody said over 900. 12.
Yeah, they're saying at least 830, but a lot of posts are starting to say, like CNN even has an article saying it's closer to 1,500. Right now.
Okay, so even if it's 900, you're looking at the equivalent of 31,000. If you're looking at 1,500, you're looking at the equivalent of 52,000. That would be 52,000 Americans. So think of, 52,000 Americans died, would you know one of them? So essentially everybody in Israel probably might know one of these people. So it's interesting to think about that and to put it in perspective when you look at how many were killed, how many innocent civilians were killed in this attack. And then, as I mentioned yesterday on the show with Rocky, by the way, shout out to Rocky. He's watching the show in the hot tub or in his tub. I think he said his balls are floating, which immediately makes me think of Hamas, because both of which I believe are terrorizing my brain at this moment. Thinking of
you enjoy it,
Rocky's testicles. But in all reality, when you really look at the actual sheer numbers and you look at the fact that now the media is doing and this is why I'm saying we're not all in. Like, people are like, question when it's all in on one side, question when it's all in on the Israel. You got to question it. Now you've got the media calling the Palestinians. You have the Palestinians being called freedom fighters. The ones that came, yes, you can look it up, Casey. They were being called freedom fighters because of how the Palestinians have been under apartheid and have been locked down. So they have started to change their tone to start fitting this pro-Palestinian concept. And yes, somebody posted about Harvard professors. There was like 30 something Harvard professors that were talking about why this was necessary. This action by Hamas was necessary. Anytime that we're saying terrorism is necessary, we need to check ourselves. We need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. And I think that this is as biblical as it gets, personally. And yes, David, they have been fighting in the sandbox for thousands of years. But when it comes down to it, we're not saying that we should be going into Israel. But the fact that people are actually chanting in the streets and supporting what happened to innocent people, to me, is the beginning of the end. That is that is signifying the book of Revelations. That is signifying, and I am not this biblical guy that pushes this kind of crap. But when we look at the degeneration of society, when we look at comparison of scripture in terms of we don't know what we have 742 genders, and we have gone to a place of debauchery. People are paying their way by OnlyFans pages. There is the families are being broken apart in order for funding by the government. All this crap, all these things happen. And then now this is happening in Israel, which I talked a couple of years ago when the issues were happening in Israel. I'm like, this is kind of biblical. That was a teaser for what is going on right now. So it's just effed up is all I have to say.
It is effed up, but I won't go as far as saying it's biblical. The reason for that is I believe when we are referring to the term of biblical, and Lenny just mentioned it, the end is near. We are talking about a cleansing of the earth and removing of all evil on the planet. And I don't feel that that is the scenario that we are coming across. It's possible. It could be wrong. I may have to address God one day in that scenario. But when it comes to this entire thing, when we keep saying it is biblical, are we sure? Or are we just saying that because sequence of events match?
Sequence of events, and I think that it mirrors some of the scripture. That's all. Yeah, I mean that's my belief on that. One last thing before we get off this, we talked obviously about this falls under the Trump was right. Trump was talking about how dangerous that $6 billion was, and I know that the White House, no, it didn't go towards this. Okay, whatever, corn pop. So the White House was asked whether or not they would consider refreezing the $6 billion that was released to Iran, and they're refusing it. At this point, wouldn't you say wouldn't this be the point where you cut resources to Iran?
Well, if you had strong leadership, yes. We have an idiot for a president, an idiot. And so I'm not shocked that we gave $6 billion to Iran. We're like, oh yeah, here's a check. Enjoy your money. But the thing is we haven't even talked about this yet. U.S. is funding practically both sides of every war that starts.
100%.
So we can't be talking about and saying the $6 billion that went to Iran. America is giving money to everybody. And so we are funding both sides of every war out there. And you want to know why? Because of the stock market and all of the people that put money into Northrop Grumman, and then what's their face? Lockheed Martin.
Right.
They put all of their money into those, and all of a sudden the stocks are going through the roof.
And that is why it's not a left issue. It's not a right issue. Is it an establishment issue? That is the problem.
Correct.
All right, we're going to go ahead and because I think part of the issue here is making sure you have strong borders. So we're going to talk about the border wall going back up. Before we do, of course, let's really quick cover this super wicked fast. I was just drinking water out of my container that I get from my sink that is from the Century H2O, centuryh2o.com. Use Russo10 for 10% off. After discount, it comes out to about $300. You will not have to replace any filters for over a year. They say a year, but in all reality, it's probably longer than that. You put it underneath your sink. You could put it into any pitcher you want, leave it in the fridge, whatever it is. It is the best water you will drink. It's adding magnesium, adding alkalinity, taking out everything. It's got the strongest, best carbon filter you are possibly going to get. And you don't have to keep replacing the Brita pitcher, whatever the heck it is. And it comes right out of the sink. It's the good stuff. So go to Century H2O, use Russo10 for 10% off. Again, I've been drinking over a gallon of water a day for like the last 2.5-3 months. Already talked about the spike protein stuff that's been added to the Dr. Artist page, drartistshow.com. Use BFD at checkout for 10% off. Our gear, awakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. Last but not least, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/BeTheChangeUSA. That's how you support it. And I will talk about cash real quick before we get to the border, because I know people might have to go. So we've got the cash. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments. So cash will be out the beginning of, we're looking at the beginning of 2024, I believe at the latest February. He was talking about the fact that he would not have access to social media, or would not be allowed to use it. But he's come to the conclusion that's not accurate. He probably just can't use it at the halfway house. And I said, like, what do you want to do? Can I put your profile picture, the badass one where you're holding the flag on at the Capitol? He goes, why not? So that's the picture that's on his Instagram. So the way that it's going to work is I'm going to give him access to everything Truth will set you free. If he wants to go on rants, he'll have a Facebook page when he gets out that's personal, I'm sure, stuff with his family. If he gets us banned off of Truth Will Set You Free and Facebook, I don't care at this point. That would be my sign where it's time for me and Casey and all of us to pack up our shit and give up. So he will be able to go here for all of the stuff that he wants to put out. Rumble will be the same way. It's the Truth Will Set You Free USA page, but his Instagram is Kash, putting it in there, the Kash Lee Kelly there it is. So there it is. We already have, I think he's got almost 350 followers that are just from today. So make sure you're following that. That's where I told him to send me emails. He's able to email. That's it. Send me some notes that he wants me to put up for people. Some motivation. As a lot of you know, he's changed a little bit. His beliefs have changed. He's not the ultra Trumper. He's so far from Q, you don't even understand. He obviously still believes in patriotism, believes in our country, believes in calling out common sense and the rule of law and all these different things. He sees corruption in the justice system. He wants to talk more about that. From the charitable aspect, Streetlights Unity Movement will not have any politics on there. That will literally be the helping people page, and that's where we will combine Be the Change. That's where all that will go. But if you want to follow some of the stuff for Kash, it's right here, the Kash Lee Kelly, right there, at the Kash Lee Kelly, and that is on Instagram. Follow that page. I'm sure he'll have a Facebook when he gets out. But until he's allowed to have social media, I will be managing that page. We'll probably also do something. I think we'll do like the Return of Cash t-shirts or something fun like that. That will be money that will go directly to him and Erica. Erica's obviously been a trooper this whole time. So that's what we got on that. Let's talk about the border real fast.
Hang on. Next time, we need to be going live on Streetlights.
But I just said no political.
No, I know. But we need to go live on Streetlights and talk about the announcement, all of the details that you just went over.
Well, I shared the post. But yeah, we could go live on Streetlights at one point. We could do that. Obviously. Yeah. You could do that. I could do that. We could do it. We could do it. Whatever. I could do that. Right. It'll be better.
We'll do it live.
We'll go. Surely. We're going to do it live. By the way, when I was looking through old videos from J6, I have the video of Alex Jones telling people to peacefully walk around the building. I'm like, has anybody ever seen that video? Because everybody's like, Alex Jones helped, the ball. I've got Alex Jones on his megaphone going, they want us to do this. They want us to go into the we need to go around. There is a stage on the other side. I find that interesting that I have that video. Anyways, and
I had no idea you had that video. I have it from Parlor Extract in all of my videos. And when I posted it, you're like, hey, video cred.
That's right. I thought that you got my video. Somebody
I had no idea you had that video. I had no clue. And that is probably where I got sucked back into liking him a little bit, to where I entertain him maybe once a quarter.
I like Alex Jones. I do. And remember, I disliked him the most because I have a friend that was that was one of the policemen in the actual Sandy Hook shooting. Somebody asked about X. He already has a page as long as he can log back into it. It is Kash Lee Kelly 1 on X. Kash Lee Kelly 1 on X.
Kash Lee Kelly 1 on X.
Yeah,
all right.
It sounds like his OnlyFans page. He was still reposting. I guess Erica still has access to it because he still did some stuff. Whatever. So, anyways, yeah, I'm sure he'll go back to that page. Maybe we'll try to change it so it's all consistent, but I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. That's it on Kash.
Maybe we can put a bunch of gay frogs up there.
There's the frogs. They turned the frogs gay. All right. So the border. So for those of you that don't know, Joe Biden is now back building the border wall, the Biden border wall. He is saying that he had no choice to do it because Congress failed to come up with a different reason to do it. What's interesting is we talk about the 26 laws that he had to break, federal laws, most of which the things that he went around were environmental laws that were put in place by his administration involving the Rio Grande and other different labor laws in order to get it up and running. But he's saying that the statute of limitations is up, and all of a sudden he decides he wants to listen to Congress, which he did not do, obviously, with student loan forgiveness. And he is, So apparently it's the Biden border wall. That is really hard to say. Say that 3 times fast. So he's building. What do you
it's
think?
Pretty easy.
Say it again.
Biden border wall. It's pretty easy.
Biden border wall. Biden border. Whatever. Go ahead.
Jeez.
What do you think?
What do I think? I shared this. Like, the person that exposed this for the very first time, and shout out to him, is Oscar L. Blue. He shared it months before this was even talked about in the media, or before the White House even admitted it, that this was happening. He was like, why are they building the wall? And I'll go back out and I'll reshare the video out. He released this video. He was standing over in Mexico, recording them, putting up more wall. Like, no, like this is hypocrisy of our government. And it is not just this administration. Our government does this for many things, but this is just the latest example that we can put in front of you that your government constantly lies to you.
Yeah.
Just to get your vote. That's all they do.
Yeah. And this, Tony brings up, we sold a bunch of our stuff. I mean, why is my phone blowing up right now? We sold a bunch of stuff, and everything has been an absolute failure to act in terms of what's going on the border, the amount of people crossing. And now the Biden administration is deciding that they're finding an excuse to say, we didn't want to do this, but we're doing it, especially as things are getting worse, especially as there's 80,000 pro-Hamas people that have probably crossed the border based on estimations. So now they got to start going back to building the wall. And they're essentially saying that their hand was forced. They wanted Congress to figure out something else, and they didn't. Question is, what else would they have done? What was the other options that Congress came up with that didn't get passed? What was the AOC's wishing would happen? What did they want? Well, I mean, what other? Yes, securing the border with more military. Okay, that's great. I don't think they wanted that either, because then they just want people to come through. I don't get it. When you look at what happened in Martha's Vineyard or New York City, finally people are starting to change their tune when they're starting to realize that 50 in a small area is too many. 5,000 in a major city is too many. So what the hell do they think is happening to the other 1 million, 2 million that's coming in every year? Where are they going? It's not like, you know what, there's plenty of land in the United States of America. They could just be going to an open field in the middle of Montana. They're not. They're going to cities where we can't take the influx, and they're finally starting to see this. That's the problem.
No, and kudos to a New York City mayor. What's his face? Mike Adams, whatever his name is. New York City mayor, for starting to talk about it, saying, "Hey, this is not going to work." At least he was talking about it and saying it's not going to work, and he is understanding what we have been saying for years, that this has to be stopped. So kudos to him to at least recognize the situation and try to talk about it and get people to move on the situation. But our government is still lying to us about the number of people that are throughout our country. I still am very against what DeSantis and Abbott did by sending all of those immigrants this invasion to New York. I'm still against it, because all you did is you made it very easy for them to get all the way to another part of our country. We don't need to allow them to spread throughout our country. And
I don't think we're in a place right now without that tactic. I don't think we are in a place where the wall starts getting built again, where I think a lot of people in the United States of America, including white suburban liberals, I don't, until we did that, I don't think we had that voting support of this needs to end. I believe as though they will start to voice that, because I think they see the idiocy in having wide open borders. That I think it was a big deal to do that. Yes, publicity stunt. Politics are dirty. I think they had to do that to open the mind of the people. Even CNN and MSNBC had to show this. Think about the fact that 5,000 people was a cancer to New York, where now you got Eric Adams telling people, yo, there is too many people here. Meanwhile, El Paso has hundreds of thousands and it's a small town, and you have to think about that. And I think people in the United States finally are starting to understand that because of that political gamesmanship that Abbott and DeSantis did.
So do you think that that's only going to encourage more of that gamesmanship to be done within our country?
I don't know. But I think it opened the eye. I think it did what it was supposed to do. And are they still shipping people there regularly? I don't know if they are. No, it was a publicity stunt in order to get people to realize how dangerous this is. And I believe it. I believe thoroughly that it worked. Now, the question I have for you, Casey, because I am a firm believer in fixing immigration policy. It takes 10 years for people to move here. But as I've considered this more and more, because I've heard some hardline Republicans go, no, I don't believe we should be making it easier. I disagree, but I agree now, because right now, number one, and this is not a chew bubble gum and walk situation. Problem number one is until we block and plug that hole, we can't even think about legally letting people in over a span of time. If we don't fix the major flow, then how are we going to even consider the proper process? We could talk about the process, we can plan, but the number one issue right now, before we get to legislation on how to make amnesty easier, how to make refugees easier, how to make those fleeing easier, if we don't fix what's going on at the border with stopping it, just point blank, cold turkey, then there is not any room for refugees. There is not any, we're a country that wants to welcome this, but if we can't stop that, then we can't allow that. Personal opinion.
I understand what you're saying. I don't completely disagree. I have some ties. I'm not ties. I have friends that have gone through the legal process, spent tens of thousands of dollars and a ridiculous amount of their time to bring their significant other into our country legally. And I would be a major hypocrite if I was to say we need to stop all of that until we can actually shut down our border, because I do not believe in our U.S. government. But for my friends that have gone through that process legally to have their significant other there with them with their family here in the United States, I have to allow that. I don't think you can take that away from them.
Agreed. I agree. I think there are some exceptions. I think there needs to be a conversation. I think we need to be building towards a place where America can accept refugees again, but we have to. That is point number 3. Number 1, stop the bleeding. Point number 2, get the infection out of the country. Anybody that is illegal has to leave. But I don't know if there's even a way to have that kind of recourse right now. I don't think we've had that documentation. I mean, I think Obama, actually, that was one of the things he did right. He had goals than any other president in history. 11 million, I think. So let's go to Obama era tactics to get him the hell out of here. Did
he? Or did those illegals just end up dead and he booked those planes with a bunch of U.S. armory to be able to send through Fast and Furious?
I believe those are called voters. But no. Biden voters you're talking about. No, he did. He deported. I remember working in North Carolina with some of my friends that were Colombian Mexican, but they were legal. And I remember when I'll never forget this. This is during a Democrat. Whoa, wait. This might have been at the end of Bush. Could have been 08. But it might have been during Bush. But this is actually less deportation than during Obama. But regardless, I remember when they had to keep all of their identification on them at all times because they knew there were people coming through. What is it? INS? INS? Immigration Services. Anyways, they were coming through places of business and pulling people. Did I freeze or did you? Oh, you just weren't moving. I thought you weren't breathing. All right, let's wrap this up with RFK real quick. There you go. $50 reward. You'd have a bunch of homeless people. Homeless veterans would be hustling their ass off. Granted, I don't believe it would work because I think it would turn violent. Anyways, yeah, they would. It sounds good on paper, but probably not going to work. So real quick, RFK Jr. leaves the Democrat Party in this sense to become an independent, run for president. I heard some people talking like it's going to only hurt the Democrat side because he is a mostly Democrat policy, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think it will help the Republican ticket more than the Democrats, but I would be one of those people that would be a questionable voter. So he does believe in an abortion ban after the first trimester, which could allure some of the independents. He is very anti-vaccine. That's a lot of the Trump people. But I don't know if the Trump people will ever leave him. So that's the question. Casey, before we go, what side do you think this hurts or helps?
I'm very adamant that it hurts the Democrats more than it hurts the Republicans. And the reason for that is, I've said this many times, Trump's still going to get 70 plus million votes. He has a very loyal following. And for those people to switch to RFK would be very extreme. Joe Biden has done nothing to earn any of the votes of the Democratic Party. And I believe a lot of people, like our friend Jay, is even frustrated with Joe Biden. I think he is even questioning, what do I do? And that is where I do see the Democratic Party is losing votes significantly. RFK is a little bit into their corner that it's going to help them. Now, this may all change if Gavin Newsom does get put up and propped up with the Democratic Party, which I'm still not throwing out. That won't happen. It might. It very well might. And in that scenario, if it was Gavin Newsom, this could hurt the Republican Party more.
I don't know. I don't know if that would affect it. I do think that I think it goes 70-30. I think it's 70% of Democrats that would leave to vote. I mean, we forget how many votes Ross Perot got back, even though he got 0 electoral college votes. I think his popular vote was almost 20% or over 20%. Right. And in swing states, that matters. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he affected the 1994,
92. He got 18.9, and then there was one more. I think it was 96.
I mean, he single-handedly won the election for the Democrats because he pulled people over. And again, I don't hate Clinton. I think Clinton had a lot of conservative ideals. If you look at him today, I mean, really, the Democrats 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they were anti-crime, anti-drug, they had some issues. They were anti-gun. That was, something we have problems with, which again, I think that, I think that's honestly RFK Jr.'s weakest place is the fact that he said that if legislation came across his desk from Congress about assault rifle ban, he would sign it. Granted, he's a gun guy. He said this when he was on the Democrat Party platform. And I wonder, I think there's a lot of questions that he needs to be asked again now that he's running as an independent.
Do you want a politician that will do that?
Yeah, I believe you have to. I believe politicians have to understand the game. And I think that if the fact is, for everybody that loves Trump so much, he does the same thing. His pushing the Operation Warp Speed. He's pushing the Operation Warp Speed, literally talking about how important. Yes, and I agree, Casey. That's one of the reasons I don't like Trump. And I understand that. But do I want a politician that does that? No. Do I think understanding the game is important? Yes, because that's why we're not right now in politics.
Understanding the game is important, but when it comes to the Second Amendment in our Constitution of our country, that should never be infringed.
Listen to what he said, though. He didn't say that he would make an executive order. He said, if
it comes across my desk, I will sign it.
If it passed the Senate and the House and gets put on his desk, that means it has to go through all of those filters. That means it has to go through the votes of the people. And again, we don't trust the vote, but that means it's got to go through all the votes of the people to get to his desk. And then he will... Then potentially, he said he would sign it when he was still a Democrat. He has to, I think that is part of the game you have to play. He was very elusive. He could have been ultra Democrat on that side and said, if I get the chance, I would love to sign that, but it's got to, he instead says, if it crosses my desk, I will sign it.
No, that is why he has the veto power. he still takes the oath of office to uphold the Constitution.
So does the Supreme Court. We also understand we have a Supreme Court that can also do the same thing. So if he decides to pass it, he'll say he signs the bill. Say he signs with the bill that is somehow makes it all the way through Congress to him. He signs it. Then Josh Hawley in Missouri can file a lawsuit that will then make it to the Supreme Court. It will be deemed unconstitutional, and it will drop just like that.
We have to stop looking to the Supreme Court to be our savior. We are electing officials that are supposed to uphold the Constitution. They need to be held accountable, or if they are not holding up the Constitution.
Theoretically. And again, I still don't know if I believe RFK would just sign some fully anti-Second Amendment thing. I don't know. But again, if that's the one thing against him, I'm still riding with RFK at this point, especially as an independent.
That's fine. I don't have a whole lot of beef with him. I just don't believe he's going to be bringing the change that I think is needed. And honestly, Vivek is wanting to squash the government. I'm all in that corner. Get rid of every 3-letter agency that we have. Vivek's single one.
The best. Vivek is by far the best if we believe that he is altruistic. 100%. His message is the best. His platform is the best. There is no doubt about that. I think RFK is also getting some flack from the Republican side now about, and rightfully so, because they want to make sure that they keep him from affecting Republican votes, about his stance on climate change, which was very hairy about 8 years ago. Very, very hairy. Casey and you and I both talked about this. He has changed that stance where he is a big environmentalist, but not at the expense of American lives, the American dollar, the American strength. And he's been very clear about that. So,
yeah, all in all, you just want another Democrat in office so they can get another blowy in the Oval Office. That's what it is. Huh?
RFK is doing backflips off a mountain. All right, last thing, Casey, votes tomorrow, general election. Everybody that's in is in. Who are you voting for?
For president?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vivek.
Who's your second choice?
Second choice? That gets tough because we got to wait until we have May, which is when the Libertarian Party puts up their candidate. And then that will change things. I can't say. But it sounds like the Libertarian Party is probably going to be putting up Spike Cohen. I wouldn't be surprised. And then he would get my vote. I love Spike. I think Spike's
I can never vote for a guy named Spike. But anyways, I've got RFK still at the top of my list, and that can change. I've got RFK and then Vivek and Trump tied in second. Trump has made his way back up to second place because I think the attack on him is showing that maybe he'll get so pissed off that he really will actually drain the swamp.
He is the only person that could ever run a write-in campaign and successfully win.
Possible. Very possible. All right, guys, make sure you follow the page. I haven't even had the banner up the whole time because I'm an idiot. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/BeTheChangeUSA. There is one-time donation spot if you'd like to do it. AwakeNotWokeStore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. Our water, Century H2O, use Russo10 for 10% off. Not that one. That doesn't count. If you like the hair products that I always talk about, go to tony.mymonate.com for more info on that. That's all I got. Take it easy, guys. Get rid of your spike proteins with Dr. Artis Show, BFD at checkout. God bless. Good night. Good fight.